Hey there, YouTube. It's Petey Two Finger. It's 2 o'clock here in Chicago. The weather's starting to break. We got more sunshiny days than just that gray cloud cover. So I'm in a pretty good mood. I did see my doctor. My hemorrhoids healing up. Boy, that was painful. I had some blood work done, and I'm a little on the diabetes 2 side. So I'm going to have to make some dietary changes. Been drinking all this homemade lemonade. It's like that showed up on my tests. So, but the good news is I've got an appointment to see the gastro people. Going to be doing my colonoscopy stuff. They removed some polyps, and I've got this pain. So hopefully that would be a gray cloud lifted that's been over my life for a long time. Anyway, my older brother and his wife came by for a visit here, which was really fun. We played our set for them, our new songs, and they appeared to genuinely appreciate it. And I did not play well. The night before they were here, I played really well, and there was the first 5 songs. I neglected to power up this EQ. The power supply was over, and it was a thing that we wired up the night before they came. I set up this audio line out to an equalizer going into a headphone amp, and the power supply for that was not in my iShot. So we were just playing, and they're clapping and everything, and then like 5 songs in, he's motioning to his wife, and I'm like, let me hear your headphones, and they're going, and he was like, her bass is too loud, it's screwing up the mix. And so I'm like, let me see. And I'm like something's really wrong with this sound, and the EQ's off. So anyway, it's always like that. Every time I have people over, the more I'm worried about impressing them, the more the stuff will fail. So yeah, they got to hear the rest of the set, and they did. I think they did enjoy it, but it could have been a lot better. The night before they were here, I had to apply super glue to my fingers because they were shot from practicing. So anyway, he had mentioned something quickly in passing when he was leaving about maybe having us play on the lawn. Uh, my older brother has a significant property, and we've played there once when they were out of town. The thing that was going on, we had been hassled by a Cook County Forest Reserve police officer named Officer Sanchez, and he had kicked us out of Cook County. We only had one place to play, and it was real mosquito attack. It was not a good place to play. And I had been complaining to my brother about it, and he said, well, you know what, we're going out of town, you can come and play here if you come once. He didn't want us to bother the neighbors, so he was kind enough to let us play there. And I got to tell you, it's ideal. Like the spot that you would pick to set up your instruments, you can access it pretty well from the driveway. And there's a barn behind you, so you've got something behind you. There's the topography of the landscape, the way that the hill comes down for people to sit. It's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. And we played balls out with the full family band, which is even louder. No, there's no master volume on that setup. We all had individual speakers, and we were running 15s. There was 1, 2, 3, 4, like 4 15-inch or 12-inch speakers out there for the PA and the bass. So it was loud. And then, my daughter has 2 guitars, 2 12s. I have 2 12s, and the keyboard has 2 12s. So it was a lot. Now we play with 2 10s and 2 10s in a sub. So I got a master volume. I can just adjust that. But anyway, one of my old friends that I kind of grew up and went to high school with, lived across the street. He came by, and he stayed for the. He just wouldn't leave. So we did play there, and it's ideal. And I would love. Nothing would mean more to me than to be able to play for my nieces and nephews because they've never seen their aunt and I do that. If they did, they were really little and they weren't at that age where they can appreciate music. So, and I like, there's my younger brother's wife is always kind of nasty to my wife, like she doesn't like her. And I just think that that would go a long way to present us as people that have some worth because we just kind of don't feel like we have any in this family, you know. And I guess that's our fault for not interjecting ourselves, but it's funny when you do something like this, if you talk about it all the time, people tend to not want to hear about it. It's not the type of thing you can talk about. You have to see and experience the music. So nothing would mean, the only thing that would mean more is if my other side of my family, my wife's family, could hear us play. But this isn't even on the table. My brother just mentioned it to me in passing, and I'm really hoping that will happen. But really, what I wanted to talk to you guys today about is recommending some movies. So, first off, we've got this documentary that anyone can watch because it's free to watch on YouTube. And it is the US Festival 1982, the US Just Generation documentary. And it's made by a channel called Amplified. So this is the story of the making of the 1982 US Festival, founded by Steve Wozniak, who's the Apple co-founder, and Bill Graham. Includes music by Tom Petty, The Police, and Fleetwood Mac. So this is not a concert movie, although you do get here and there smatterings of full one-song performances by various bands. Now, the US Festival is the first outdoor music festival mega joint. I mean, this is like people as far as you can see in every direction. It's frightening the amount of people that came. But what sets the US Festival 1982 apart was it was the first festival where they had their stuff together. Meaning there was double the porta potties, they had water cannons blasting the people down, they had a huge outdoor shower thing, they had a tech booth. They had enough food and liquid to keep people shade, freak out tents. The sound system was really well done. They had 2 reports of criminal, theft. There was no arrests, and it was kind of like they had a rainbow on the stage, and it just everything was done so well by Steve Wozniak, preparing in advance and thinking it through. Because he hired some people. One being Bill Graham, and that's the main 2 forces in the movie is Woz, kind of versus this Bill Graham. Bill Graham is a New York guy, and he deals with the bands. He's a no-nonsense. He's all about the artist. And then you got Wozniak trying to bring 300 of his closest friends in backstage to play petting zoo with all of the hired help, all the stars. So it was kind of a push-pull between those 2 guys. But it all worked out. The movie's really a feel-good, utopic thing. You watch this movie and you understand how we went from the mud of Woodstock, the murder of Altamont, to the idyllic, Bonnaroo, where the grass is really green and there's room for everybody. There's no, you don't have to worry about getting smashed to death like at Travis Scott's Astro World. So something like that sounds like it would appeal to you, but I gotta let you know in advance there really is a shortcoming of live performances. Tom Petty does a great job. I really wasn't that hot on Fleetwood Mac. To me, I think that band, if they didn't have Stevie Nicks up there with her baby face, because it pretty much it seemed like everyone was it was just all about her, you know, like she was the sex symbol. But what do I know? Uh, Music is subjective, and that's what makes it beautiful. So, Ozfest '83. My brother was in California. He was in the Navy, and he got to go. And I believe he saw the Who. I remember him talking about Judas Priest riding a Harley out on stage, and I think he saw the Clash at Ozfest '83. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that, but if you look at Ozfest '83, it's like Motley Crue. It's a lot more like aggressive music, where um, '82 was much more well-rounded, and the way that they laid it out made sense. Like the one, yeah, I got a burn from an incense stick. That's what that is. The 82, they had a much broader variety of music. Like there was some country artists, and the way that they laid it out, meaning like the day that the Ramones played, the B-52s, the Talking Heads, and the Police. So it everything about it made sense. It was well planned out, and that's why it worked so well, and that's why there wasn't any arrests, because it was thought out and it was just really good. They had a technology quadrant, technology tent, and that was full of Apple technology, and they had a synclavier there, which is the first sampler. They were incredibly expensive. I think they only made 17 to 25 of those for the entire world. Zappa ended up with one, and he fed it his computer music, his classical music scores, and he loved it because it would play exactly what he put into it. He was always frustrated having to work with human beings and have them give different performances. So the synclavier is there on display. That's what you hear at the beginning of Michael Jackson's Beat It. Bow, bow. That's a synclavier. It's a fancy sampler synthesizer. And it was hardware. It came with a light pen and a monitor, and that's how you would input. The GUI was, the graphical user interface was this light pen and a green and black monitor screen. But really cool stuff. The Us Festival documentary on Amplify, definitely check that out. It's really a feel-good thing. The only qualm that I had about it was a little heavy on Talking Head and light on music. Not that the Talking Head stuff I ever got bored or didn't appreciate it. It just would have been like maybe they were worried about the time constraints or they didn't have the rights for the footage. Either way, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of the music, but it's a really good music movie, and it's about something, a festival that we don't hear about because nothing bad happened at it. You know, you hear about Altamont, you hear about Woodstock, and the people that were there said this should have been Woodstock because I'm pretty sure they had more people there, and it was awesome. So definitely check that out. Going on to talk a little more, I know this is 13 minutes. When they were here, when my brother was here, I mentioned this movie, Health Fighters, because it popped up on my gray area streaming service website. So I had watched this John Wayne movie. I think it was 1970, 1971 it came out. It's just a bizarre movie. John Wayne owns a company where they put out oil wildfires. And so these action sequences are great. There's a lanky love interest guy in it who's he gets all the chicks. That was bad. That was horrible. And then all the gambling, they're playing gin rummy and drinking all their Harvey Wallbangers and then going and fighting these big fires. John Wayne's all overweight. He's like 70 years old. It was great. Hellfighters was a really fun movie, and I love the action scenes in it, but the rest of the movie was pretty much throwaway. So after was talking to him about that movie, we were talking about John Wayne and Westerns. And my brother leaves, and I put on this movie called Apollo 10 and a half. Now, this movie is Jack Black does the voiceovers in it. And this movie is about growing up in suburban Houston in uh, right when the moon launch happens. And there's a fantasy element of it where this kid gets picked and he has to fly up to the moon. But basically, that's a side plot. It's Jack Black retelling the story of this guy here with his brothers and sisters as they grow up in idyllic Houston. Their dad works for NASA. Here they are riding behind the mosquito truck. And if you don't know about that, well, kids used to do it. And I remember feeling funny at the dinner table after riding behind that thing for 3 hours. So yeah, this movie, really the space stuff in it that's a misnomer. It's really not a lot of space stuff in the movie. The father works for NASA as a shipping and receiving clerk, but there is a minimum of space stuff in it. The main meat and potatoes of the movie is just growing up, and it's really not eventful. It's very wholesome to a fault, you know. There's one scene where the dad confiscates some Playboys from the kids, and I was like, finally, something real in this movie. Because the complaint that I had, it was a bit too idyllic. But that really wasn't the point of the movie, and I did enjoy it. It is a neat thing watching the animation, how it's so realistic, the way that they paint these frames. Obviously, it's filmed. They filmed it and then converted it to animation, I think. I don't know. So that was a fun movie. In the middle of that movie, or towards the end, they go to the drive-in, and they're going to see this whatever wholesome family thing, Sound of Music or whatever it is, and the kids jump out of the car. Some of the old drive-ins had 2 screens, so they could show 2 different movies. And they go, "We're going to see Hellfighters." And I was like, hey, holy cow, that was... we had just got done telling my brother about this movie. They left. We put this other movie on, and here it was in there. So obviously, the people at the gray area streaming service that I use had seen 10 and a half and went and found Hellfighters, because there's animated scenes of Hellfighters in Apollo 10 and a half. It shows scenes from the movie, so that was kind of neat. I've been on John Wayne worked with Lee Marvin, who I come to really appreciate Lee Marvin as one of the great actors. Macho, tough guy. You know, like Clint Eastwood is kind of a poor man's Lee Marvin, if you think about it. And Lee Marvin is a better actor than Clint Eastwood, I think. Maybe not by much. You have to watch The Wild One. That's really good. And Lee Marvin's the bad guy in that one. Also, I watched The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, which I didn't enjoy the political. It's kind of like 2 movies in one. I enjoyed the Western part of it with Lee Marvin as a bad guy. Anyway, last night I watched The Big Red One, which is the movie that came out after Star Wars that had Mark Hamill in it. And my memory, back then I used to watch this show called Sneak Previews all the time. They would show clips from movies. It's really cool. I remember watching the Star Wars episode many times because they kept re-airing it. Part of the Star Wars mania that occurred in 1977, was it? 78? I don't remember. So, Big Red One is Lee Marvin and Mark Hamill, World War II. They go into Africa, Angola, I think, or something like that. Entebbe, I forget which raid that was, but they end up at a Czechoslovakian death camp, like a Dachau type of idea, and it gets a bit weird there. It's a weird movie. It's just the way it's paced and how they go in from the action scenes to the The boredom where they're just sitting around talking, waiting for something to happen. It's kind of weird. And they do a D-Day like once you've seen Saving Private Ryan, it's like any D-Day thing is like it's like a 15 10-minute scene, you know. And they've got maybe like 60 actors, you know. So Big Red 1, I think it was a low budget movie. I think that's uh, what separated it from other great war movies was its budget. Because if they would have had the epic battle scenes in it and done a little bit better with the script, although the acting is fantastic in it. So if you like Lee Marvin and you've never seen it, but you definitely want to check out that US Festival. That's really worth your time. Just be warned that there isn't a lot of concert footage. It's mostly talking head. Although the utopic feeling that I got from it was so good, I was just almost like near tears many times when I watched it. At how awesome it was that they did it right. All the way back in 1982. And when it comes down to Jobs versus Waz, there's no contest. No contest. Not I don't even consider Jobs. As a matter of fact, well, I can't say anything negative about the guy. He was who he was. I gotta try to be nice, but let's just say I would pick Waz. So check that out and stay healthy. Hug your pets and peace.